just to make sure you all are in the right place. Today's presentation is going to be on UC admissions, how to be successful on the UC application. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available on our YouTube channel by noon tomorrow. And without further ado, I will be introducing our guest speaker for this evening, Devin Bohart. She comes from us from UC Davis. Thank you so much for being with us, Devin.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping everyone can hear me and see me okay. As mentioned, my name is Devin. I'm an admissions analyst and advisor with UC Davis. I will be talking about UCs in general and kind of the process of applying to them. The presentation is going to have a lot of different pieces, and I will definitely make sure to talk about the application itself as well. There are a variety of different application workshops, virtual options. I know Davis offers multiple, and all their UCs do as well. Throughout the presentation, you'll kind of see that we have a lot of things in common throughout the admissions process. So let me go ahead and pull up my slides. Am I controlling the slides? Because I sent them along. You want me to control them still?
Yeah, you'll be able to go through them as soon as you're done with each slide and move on to the next one. So
okay, so I'm doing it on my end. Okay, got it. Hold on 1 second.
oh, you're muted, Devin.
Okay, we should have it up now. There we go. Admission to the University of California. I'm hoping you guys see that on your end too.
Yep.
Okay, great. So the UC system, Davis is one of 9 University of California campuses. You can see them all on this map here, but the northernmost campus, lots of different options. Some you guys I'm sure have heard of, some maybe you haven't. A lot of different options for students. We all have different flavors, I like to say. The geography, the size, the different kind of strengths of each campus kind of vary, but overall we're known for research and a variety of other things. Academic engagement is a big part of what we do. So a large percentage of students are doing research or other creative experience. Students are doing internships, practicums, and field experience. So making sure you have that hands-on experience in addition to any research that you may want to do. And there's also a lot of service happening on our campuses as well. So you can see there's a variety of different ways. And this could be one student doing all 3 of these things or different students focusing on 1, maybe 2 of these areas. So lots of ways for students to get involved. However that looks for them and whatever field they're studying. In some situations, research may not make as much sense and they want to explore like for example, a practicum or other sorts of experience, or potentially services maybe more down that student's alley. So when you're choosing a campus, it's really important to consider a variety of different things, not unlike when you're looking at other college campuses, right? You need to look at what size is going to be right for me. We have different sizes from over 30,000 students to under 10,000 within the UC system. So different sizes may be different for different students. What location works best for me? As you saw, Davis is 500 miles away from UC San Diego. There's a big discrepancy between the northernmost and southernmost campus, depending on how close you want to be to family or various other geographic things. Do you need to be by the beach? Do you want to be by mountains or skiing or snow or Yosemite so you can go backpacking? So there's lots of different kind of aspects to consider. And of course, you need to consider what majors are being offered or kind of what general subject areas are you interested in. Obviously, if you kind of want to look at what's available at different schools and and make sure they have what you're looking for. If you're not sure what you want to study, try and narrow down and focus on kind of a general area and kind of see what campuses offer in that regard. But these are going to be the 3 main things I would say you want to look for when deciding which of the UC campuses campuses is going to be a good one for you to apply to. I'm going to do a quick overview of the different campuses, their sizes, the kind of general feel based on like the type of campus. In this case, we're going to starting with Berkeley. It's a more urban campus. Talk a little bit about the geography and some unique majors they have. The UC campuses have tons of majors available. For example, Davis has over 100 majors. So definitely do your due diligence to research. I just wanted to highlight a few unique ones that aren't offered at many other UCs on these slides here. So UC Berkeley is one of the larger of the UC campuses with over about just shy of 32,000 students. Definitely an urban campus located near Oakland, near San Francisco, at Silicon Valley. Some unique majors are going to be Celtic Studies, Data Science, which Davis recently offers now, Nuclear Engineering, Social Welfare, and Geophysics. So that's some of our more unique options from UC Berkeley. Davis is about a similar size in terms of undergraduate students. We at Davis talk about being a true college town. That's kind of what sets us apart. We're kind of a suburban feel as well, but we are a small town. So while Berkeley is kind of a bigger urban vibe with a lot more going on around it, and some other campuses will have that, Davis is a college town, about 66,000 residents in Davis. And with 32,000 undergraduate students, half the population is students, which is fun. Davis is outside Sacramento and also within an hour of Napa Valley. Some unique majors are animal science, one of the biggest, that and plant science are our top most popular majors, hydrology, viticulture and enology, wildlife fishing conservation biology, and global disease biology. So you can kind of see some similarities there with those unique majors. Definitely an ag school, that's where the strengths are going to lie. UC Irvine has under 30,000 students. It's definitely a suburban campus near Disneyland. I'm sure you guys are familiar with UC Irvine. Some of the unique majors are nursing science, one of the few UCs that has a nursing undergraduate degree. Informatics, criminology, again, one of the few UCs that has criminology, which would be similar to criminal justice, law and society, and urban studies. So those are kind of some of the highlights from UC Irvine. One of the beach campuses, closer to the beach than others. And the very similar size, about almost just shy of 32,000 students at UCLA, another urban campus. LA is definitely going to be kind of in that city near Hollywood. Some unique majors are climate science, architectural studies, public affairs, ethnomusicology, and design media arts. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with UCLA being known for, you know, film and things like that. You can kind of see that film and music coming out in those unique majors as well. UC Merced is our newest little sister, less than 10,000 students here, just shy of 8,000 actually undergraduate students. This is the rural campus. So if you're looking for kind of that rural space, it's near Yosemite, which is very cool. Earth Systems Science is a unique major there. Critical Race and Ethnic Studies, Global Art Studies, and Public Health are some of those unique majors. UC Riverside, another SoCal campus. Kind of more in the middle sort of size range with 22,600 undergrads. Definitely a suburban campus near Big Bear and Palm Springs. They have a creative writing major, learning and behavioral studies, business administration, one of the few UCs with a business specific major, and public policy. Keep in mind the ones that I'm saying, very like the nursing, the business administration, while they may not have specific majors in those fields, you can go into business, you can become a nurse from any UC campus. The pathways may look slightly different depending on where you're going. For example, at Davis, we don't have business, but our major that would be most comparable would be managerial economics, amongst a few others that can set you up very well for business. So make sure if you're looking at a campus and you're not seeing what you're maybe initially thinking you want to major in, definitely ask some questions to see if there's a route that might be good for you. But business administration is explicitly offered at UC Riverside. UC San Diego is actually the top ranked beach school in the US. So it's kind of a fun one. Very similar size to Davis and Berkeley with just shy of 32,000 undergrads. It's kind of an urban suburban feel, kind of like that big suburb, almost urban feel. It's in La Jolla. So it's kind of just outside like that downtown area. It's right near SeaWorld. They have a pharmacological chemistry major, cognitive science, nano engineering, marine biology. They're a great place to go for marine biology, as well as the next one I'm about to focus on. And they also have speculative design. So some very specific majors there. Santa Barbara is another great beach campus. San Diego, Santa Barbara, and the one I'm about to mention, the last one, are known for surfing. They're 3 of the top 5 best surf schools in the U.S. Lots of coastal campuses we have here. Santa Barbara is another of our medium-ish sized campuses with just over 23,000 undergrads. Definitely a more suburban campus, very beach feel. You can see it's literally some of the buildings on campus are on the water. It's right near Pismo Beach in San Luis Obispo. If you're familiar with Cal Poly SLO, it's near that. Some unique majors are actuarial science, kind of like accounting, I believe. Classics, aquatic biology, and zoology. So if you're looking for animal, you could do that at Davis, but also Santa Barbara has some options. Biopsychology, as well as language, culture, and society. So some unique options there. And then our last campus is going to be UC Santa Cruz. So that's going to be on the smaller side, 17,000 undergraduate students. Suburban Forest campus. I add that in there because if you visit that campus, it looks like this picture, just trees. It's kind of like in the trees. It's one of the smaller campuses. I think it's a very unique campus in and of itself. It's near Monterey and Big Sur. So it's south of Berkeley, but definitely a Northern California campus. Some unique majors are astrophysics, community studies, technology and information management, art and design, and they have a games and it's art and design for games and playable media. That's one major down there, excuse me. So if you're looking to do video game design, Santa Cruz is a great place to do that. I'm sorry if you hear the plane in the background. So those are kind of the general, very, very general. That's not going to be enough if you're looking to do research for each campus, but hopefully something caught your eye so you kind of have a good starting point for, oh, I didn't know that major existed. I'd love to explore that. So that's kind of a general understanding of the size and location as well. But definitely do your research, go to those different virtual events, ask people at college fairs, like you guys did, I'm sure, yesterday. Go to those websites, do those virtual tours, all that good stuff. In terms of actually applying to UC, all 9 of those campuses use the same application, the same information that you put into the UC application a copy of all of it goes to each of the campuses you select to apply to. For my students who are seniors, the application's been open since August, and the application period, meaning the time frame that you can hit submit, started on October 1st. So you can actually submit your application as early as right now, but you have until Thanksgiving. I usually tell students Thanksgiving because I like them to get things in a little bit earlier. It's not going to affect how or when your application is reviewed. It's not going to give you an edge in any way, shape, or form, but it is good to kind of give yourself a little bit of a buffer just in case you have a Wi-Fi issue or anything like that. There is an application fee per campus, so do keep that in mind. Each campus that you click, while it's very easy and pain-free to just click all the campuses, if you're not truly interested in them, you do have to pay. So do keep that in mind. Apply to the campuses that you could see yourself going to, and if that's all of them, that's awesome. Do keep in mind there is a fee, and if you don't think you can see yourself at all of them, just pick the ones that you really like. There's no early action or early decision. This is kind of the only main cycle that we abide by. It's that fall application cycle. Do keep in mind that some campuses may do a winter or spring application process on their own. So that is something you could keep an eye out for, but that's not going to be every campus. For example, Davis does not have that option. We do not accept any supplemental materials unless you are specifically requested. So by invitation only would we have auditions, portfolios, letters of recommendation, or any other sort of supplemental pieces. So the only things you're submitting for the UC application are going to be the application itself, which actually has a scholarship application built in there. And then the only other thing is going to be the FAFSA, and that's going to be the case for any college that you're applying to. You want to make sure you're qualifying for that federal aid. Federal financial aid. So that's the only thing you're going to be submitting. We don't want any official transcripts, test scores, anything at this point. We will let you know when we want them, and it's not going to be until after you've committed to our campus. So I think there might be a timeline in here later, but just to give you an idea, all UCs will have released decisions by the end of March. So you'll know all the decisions by then, and you have until May 1 to decide. So you'll submit your application by the end of November, and there is a bit of a waiting period, a few months there until you hear back from us. Freshman admission. So here are the requirements. There's only two things listed here because there's only two things you have to absolutely have to be eligible for a UC campus. The subject areas, A through G, I'll go through those in a moment, but if you're at a California high school and you are graduating, you know, you're getting your high school diploma, you'll be meeting the A through G requirements. The only other thing we're looking for is a 3.0 GPA. I know all the literature says for Davis and for some other UC campuses, a higher GPA range for the middle 50% most of the time is what we use. But the minimum we need is a 3.0. And we do admit students below a lot of those ranges. So do keep that in mind. Here are those A through G requirements that I mentioned. Basically, we've taken all those subjects that you're taking and coded them with different letters, A through G. And this is what we're looking for. There's a minimum number of years that are required, and those are listed here. And then I've also added an asterisk on the subjects we recommend to have an additional year to be more competitive. So math, science, and a language other than English. Ideally, you'd have an additional year in each of those things. But for minimum eligibility, the parentheses numbers are what we need. And that information is available online. So if you go to the UC admissions website, you can find everything that I'm talking about and even more, actually. There's a lot of information about the application there. For selection, we're looking at a lot of different things. So we're looking at the applicant pool. So it can be more or less competitive each year. It's been more and more competitive each year, I will say. I understand you'd be like, maybe it'll be less competitive, but the trend has been increasing competitive nature. We're also looking at academic factors, including marked improvement from one year to the next, increase in rigor, taking advantage of those AP courses or other maybe advanced programs that your school offers. And then there's comprehensive review factors. There's a variety of criteria that we look at. Some of them are not even academic. So those opportunities when you do take advantage of leadership or you do a variety of different types of community service or whatever it is that works for you, those are all things that we do take into consideration. So there isn't an expectation that you have a leadership role in any capacity or that you have a certain number of community service hours. We admit students without community service hours. We admit students that don't have leadership roles. But it's important that you tell us what you are doing and what you are interested in, because that's going to be really important in that application. So here's a little bit more about what comprehensive review entails. So we're going to be looking at academic achievement, personal and school context. The PIQs are a big part of it, those personal insight questions. That's the written portion of the application. There are 8 total questions there. I don't think I have a slide about it. Yes, I do. So I'll go into that in a moment. There's an activities and awards section where you have up to 20 entries of including anything that you're doing with your time, any awards that you've won, employment opportunities, volunteering, educational prep programs, lots of different things there. Make sure you include any special talents you have or challenges you've overcome and any special circumstances. And that could be difficulties at home. It could be a learning disability or a physical or mental disability. It could be, I mean, maybe you like had like a situation where there was like significant grief in your life or some other loss. It could, I mean, there's a lot of different things that special circumstances could be. I know a lot of students like to talk about COVID and the hardships from COVID. I want to put an asterisk on that. If you do need to talk about COVID, make sure it's very explicit how it affected you. Talking very generally about being in remote classwork. Every student was remote. So we do know that that was the case for certain years. So if you have to talk about COVID or you have to explain a situation from COVID, make sure it's very specific so we understand why we need this information. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time to write it, right? We already know that COVID happened and we are taking that into account upon evaluation. So there's these are the different sections of the application. There's also an about me section and a review section. So that's at the very beginning and very end, respectively. Campuses and majors is a pretty straightforward section. That's going to be where you're selecting which campuses you want your application to go to. And then you'll have to select which major you're applying to for each college. Some colleges will offer an undeclared option. For example, Davis offers a variety of undeclared options within general categories. So undeclared arts, humanities, undeclared life sciences, etc. So you'll want to explore different colleges to see what they offer in terms of the undeclared options if you're not sure. You also will select alternate majors for a lot of different colleges. So you'll kind of have your backup option in there too. Academic history, or basically self-reporting everything on your transcript. It's useful to have an unofficial copy in front of you to make sure you input it all correctly. That will be very important. You also will want to, if you have test scores, so not the SAT or ACT, we don't want those. We are completely test-free, and by we, I do mean the entire UC system is test-free. If you have AP or IB exams, those can be input into the application. Activities and awards, I kind of already touched on that, and I think there might be, no. So that's going to be anything you're doing when you're not sleeping. That's kind of recreational. So obviously brushing your teeth isn't going to go on there, but anything that you're doing that you choose to do, and that could be if you make YouTube videos, if you play an instrument, and you taught yourself an instrument, if you know, all those types of things. And you can also include like home responsibilities if they are significant. So cleaning the bathroom once a week is not going to be significant. But if you're, and we all kind of have that responsibility, we all kind of assume that happens. But if, for example, you provide a lot of support to a family member, whether that be translating for your parent, or you know, helping a disabled sibling, or, you know, caring for an elderly grandparent. So there's a variety of things you can include here that aren't necessarily classroom or school related activities. So it doesn't have to be a traditional activity to include it, but do make sure that if you include something that's a little bit less obvious would be like, I play on the soccer team, I'm in Model UN, or debate, something like that, where we are familiar with the activity. Make sure you're very clear and detailed as to what you're exactly doing, so that we understand kind of the nature of the activity. The personal insight question section is probably what we get the most questions about, but it's the most open-ended of all the sections. There are 8 total questions, and you will select 4. Any 4 that you want, they're all weighed equally. It doesn't really matter. You have a maximum of 350 words each. So you will not be able to use any more than that. In fact, you don't need to even use all 350 words if you can write a sufficient response in fewer words. So it's not all about quantity in this case. We're really looking for you to have, and if you break down personal insight question, it really tells you exactly what we're looking for. So personal, it means that we're looking for information about you. What's up with you? What's important to you? What makes you proud? What have you overcome? What challenges you? What excites you? What makes you who you are? That's the personal information. The insight is going to be the why. So why do you like this? Why do you participate in it? Why was it hard for you? And how did you overcome it? So the insight's going to be really important. And I'd say that is the #1 missed opportunity in the personal insight question section. Students too often get caught up in telling you the details in the background, which is great. I love learning things, but it's hard when it's not learning about you. So do keep in mind, if you want to tell me about, for example, if you're in, your religion's really important to you and you want to talk about a holiday or another faith-based tradition, I would love to learn more about your faith, but make sure it ties back to you. Giving me a book report or a history lesson isn't going to help me decide or determine how eligible you are for my campus. So make sure you're very explicitly talking about yourself and giving your personal insight and your reflection in there. And when it says question, it specifically doesn't say prompt, because it's a question as in we want you to respond as if it was an interview question. It's not an essay. It's not a written statement. We're not trying to get your handle of if you know English, if you are a good, strong writer. We can get that information in other ways. Ultimately, we care more about learning about you. So imagine you were sitting in front of an admissions evaluator, and I asked you, what's your greatest talent or skill? Or how do you exhibit leadership in your day-to-day basis? Those are 2 kind of examples of questions we have as the personal insight section. So think about if you were responding in real time and you were speaking to someone, and then if you're really struggling, you could even try like speaking out loud and saying out loud how you would respond and writing that down, polishing it up. And that's going to be probably the best way for you to get kind of that response that we're looking for. It shouldn't have a hook. It's not to entertain. It really is intended to help us get to know you better. So focus on informing us. If you're a naturally funny person and that's comfortable for you to have that humor piece, that's fine. But trying to be edgy or funny, if that's not who you are, it's going to come off kind of stiff. And it's going to be a waste of kind of your time. So just focus on informing us and letting us know who you are and what's important to you. And that's what's going to really stand out and be a strong response. More information, tips, worksheets are available on the admissions website. So I encourage you to check that out to get more support there. I mentioned we are test free, so no need to submit the ACT or SAT. And this is kind of the future of that. So if you're not a senior, that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future as well. More discussion about the test scores. Again, ultimately we're test free. You're not going to be submitting test scores to UC now or likely anytime in the future. And then here are some useful resources. If you want to grab a quick picture, you can do that. Just general admissions information, the selection process for freshmen. Transfer info is in here, but that doesn't really apply to you folks at this time. That is a great plan B option, but I hope everyone at the high school level who's interested in going to a UC as a freshman applies as a freshman. Here's some more info if you want to take a photo here, personal insight question information, application procedures, kind of a how to apply, and then again, more information for students for transfer. I believe that's my last slide. So let's see, do we have any questions? Oh, we do have a couple of questions popping right up. So let's go ahead and answer some of those. If you guys do have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and it can be anything about UCs. I also can answer specific questions about Davis, but I can't answer anything super specific about other campuses as I'm not a representative of those spaces. So if you do have specific campus questions that aren't for Davis specifically, you will want to reach out to those campuses individually. So there's a question, what's the percentage of California residents accepted to UC campus? So we actually are capped. We're not allowed to admit more than 18% of our applicants from outside of California. So I don't know what the percentage breakdown is of like the applicant pool, but I know we have to have a minimum of whatever that math is. 82% of our students need to come from California. How does applying undeclared affect your chance of admission? So for Davis specifically, we admit by college, not by major. So that is something that may vary campus to campus, as we don't admit by major at our campus, at least for first year students. So it's going to be important that students just pick what's going to be important to them. Undeclared life sciences versus biological sciences is viewed as the same. So the undeclared options are all, because there's multiple different ones at Davis, are all going to be housed for under different colleges. So that's how that undeclared application would work. Should we list AP Scholar if they earn that from College Board? If a student wants to include any sort of award or designation, they're more than welcome to do that. Yes. There's nothing a student can put in the application that can hurt them. And I'm going to say that again. There's nothing a student can put in the application that can hurt them. I get questions all the time. Is it bad if I put this? Is it okay if this goes in there? The answer is always, if you're not sure if you should put it, put it. More information is only going to help us. If it's something that we don't need or can't use, we're going to simply ignore it or skip over it. So I would encourage you to just give yourself the benefit of the doubt and throw information in there. And if we don't need it, we won't use it. I get questions, I didn't pass an AP exam. Should I still include it? I say yes. It won't hurt you at all. It can only help you. And in my opinion, I like seeing when a student challenges themselves. And you know what? Maybe it didn't work out, but maybe I can see you got a 2. And then the next year you still took on more AP courses because you're like, you know what? I'm going to overcome this challenge. So it's never going to hurt you to put anything in the application. So always just put it if you're not sure. How much do you weigh challenges in your admissions decision? So there isn't a numerical review process at UC. So we have a lot of different criteria, most of which is not metric, is not numbers. The only thing that is a number is a GPA. Technically, the AP and IB exam scores are numbers, but we don't factor those into anything. Students can get course credit based on the score they have, but there really aren't a lot of numbers in the review process. We're really looking at the student as a whole. The whole entire system uses that comprehensive review, meaning it's a comprehensive evaluation of everything the student puts in there. There isn't like a specific, this is weighed heavier than that. Everything is taken into account, and each application is individually reviewed with all of those different pieces that the student supplies. So the more a student puts, the clearer the picture we have, which is why I always encourage students to really take their time when they fill out that application and put as much as they can in there. How are application fees collected through the Common App? I do not know. We don't use the Common App. I'm unfamiliar with that process. For the UC application, you would pay upon submission. Top 9%. So I've read the top 9% of California high school students are automatically admitted to a UC school. Is that true? How does that work? So that would be eligibility in local context. We refer to it as ELC. It means a student's guaranteed to be admitted to a UC school, and it's going to be whichever one has the capacity to admit more students. In the past, it's typically been UC Merced. If you want more information about eligibility in local context, I would check out the UC admissions website for more specifics on how that works. How much is the average tuition per year? I don't know off the top of my head. You can look at the tuition costs. I know Davis has a specific Davis cost page. So if you type UC Davis cost into your browser, you can find that. So I can see if I can't. I'd rather answer questions than pull up links. You guys are more, it's very easy for you guys to just Google those things. I believe tuition is fairly similar across the board at each campus. So you can kind of see the breakdown. I do want you to also note that lots of students get lots of aid at the UC campuses. We pride ourselves on how much aid we supply to students. So between submitting that FAFSA and getting that aid and submitting the scholarship application built into the admission application, there's a lot of different aid opportunities for students. Davis specifically, about 70% of our students get some sort of gift aid, meaning they don't have to pay it back. And half of the students from Davis graduate with zero debt. So that's a UC statistic, and I think you'll see similar things across the various campuses. How many AP courses should the applicant have? There isn't a number. It could be 0 if that's what's right for the student. It could be 10. It could be 2. It really varies. So there are some students that don't have access to APs, or maybe only have access to a couple. So there isn't a set number. We're really taking a lot of things into consideration. So a student may not have AP courses, but they may have something else. They may show or demonstrate academic rigor in other ways. So I just encourage students to challenge themselves and take advantage of opportunities available to them. So if the school they're attending has 20 different AP courses offered, and they decide not to take any sort of honors courses at all, that's probably not going to be in their best interest, because they had opportunities to take advantage of different, more challenging coursework, and they clearly did not do that. So if your school has AP courses, it's in students' best interest to take advantage of those if they're not looking into other honors coursework, IB, concurrent, or dual enrollment with a college, etc. So we'll be looking for, what level of APs are available, but maybe it won't be right for the student depending on other things. So there's a lot of different factors involved in that. So there's not a straight answer. How impactful are extracurricular activities such as community service compared to GPA and academics? So like I said, there isn't a number. There's no like this over this, that over that. We are looking at the student as a whole, and some students are going to have a lot more rigorous coursework and fewer activities and awards. And some students are going to have tons of involvement, and they're not going to have as much in the academic section. So obviously a student with a strong GPA is going to be more competitive, but there's a lot of other factors. And I always tell students when they're looking at those middle 50% ranges, we admit students below that, and we unfortunately deny students within those ranges, because it's not just the GPA, it's not just the courses. So there isn't like a magic number, this is the important thing, and that's not how it works. We really want to benefit the students to see what are their strengths and try and evaluate them based on their strengths. Can we obtain an electronic copy of this presentation? I believe it is being recorded.
Yes, the presentation is being recorded, and this will be on our Futureology YouTube channel tomorrow sometime during noon.
And folks, just stop me if I'm going too long. I was under the impression I have until 7, so I'm just going to keep answering questions. Does that work?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that there isn't something else that I need to be leaving for.
No, you're good. Thank you so much.
Usually I generate a lot of questions from these presentations, so I wanted to make sure this was how you wanted this to go. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if folks can drop their questions in the Q&A box instead of the main chat, it would be better, and we can like streamline all the questions all in one place.
I didn't even see that in there. I was just popping in the chat. So yes, the Q&A would be easier, I think. So I'm going to hop over there because I see there's some things over there. UCs might come up with their own testing requirements instead of the SAT. Is that true? It's possible, but at this point, unlikely. We're going to have to wait on that. So for fall 23 and 24 applicants, so applying for the fall 23 and for the fall 24 cycles, we're going to be test free. After that, there could be a UC specific test that will be determined and announced as that information is available. Our SBAC or CASP test scores used in the application process. I'm going to go with no, because I'm not familiar with those. And having read for 4 years, I don't know what those are. So no. I read an article that UCs must offer admission to the top 9% of students in their school. So I already mentioned, so when you talk about the top 9%, that's the eligibility in local context. And again, that's going to be available for students. It is guaranteed to one UC. It may not be a UC the student applies to. It's going to be the UC campus that has space, which typically is UC Merced. For more information, go to the eligibility and local context page for the UC admissions page. Although test scores are not required, is it used to consider merit-based scholarship or any acceptance process? So at this point, you can actually put the SAT or ACT into the application. So not really, to answer your question. There may be external scholarships you're welcome to apply to. And if you have more questions about the scholarship process at Davis, definitely check the financial aid website page. There's a whole scholarship section, so you can learn more about how those work. My son volunteers as part of National Honor Society. Should they volunteer hours be listed individually? It's up to you. If your student has space, because there's a maximum number of entries. If a student has space, they are welcome to do that. But it's up to them. They have a description box in the entries. So if you have different things, like if you want to include like beach cleanup, 2 different times, total of 10 hours. And then you want to include like, served at blood bank for, 3 times or whatever it looks like. You could put it in the description or separate it out. It's whatever you have space for. If it's something that takes up a lot of time and the student wants to put like them all separated out, that's fine. If you don't have space, that's fine too. If our child is accepted as whatever their major is, can they change it later? That may vary campus to campus. At UC Davis, we do allow students to change their major. So better to take an AP and honors class and get a B, or a regular class and get an A. There isn't like an obvious better answer. I always encourage students to challenge themselves to the level that they can still be successful. So push yourself without overdoing it. Obviously I would rather you have stronger grades, but if you have, a weighted B grade is about the same in the GPA as a regular A grade. So getting straight A's with no rigor, if you have a lot available, I like to see you at least trying even just one class, just to dip your toe in, pushing yourself, because maybe you may do really well in that and then you can increase it the next year, right? So I tell students, if you have it available, do what you can to challenge yourself. And for some students, it is challenging to take regular classes, and that's okay too. So just doing what you feel is right for you. There isn't a magic number, because we admit students that have 0 AP classes, and we unfortunately have to deny students that have many. So that's really not, there isn't like a threshold for anything here. How does the community college transfer admission guarantee program work? That's such a great question. This is a freshman application presentation, so I'm going to focus on those questions. The transfer admission guarantee is an incredible program. I would highly encourage you to do some research on it. It is going to be kind of campus specific. Not all UC campuses offer it. Davis does for almost all of our majors. So if you go to our website and look at transfer admission guarantee, you can learn more about it there. It's a great plan B option. If you miss certain slides, you can review the recording at a later time. Do we look more at weighted or unweighted GPA? We actually have 3 different GPA calculations we use. There's a weighted capped, which is a UC cap, a maximum of 8 courses, and then the unweighted as well. So we look at all 3 and benefit the student, whichever is the best one for them. So if a student doesn't have a lot of AP courses available, that capped option is going to help them. The unweighted kind of helps us see just generally how successful they are in a classroom, as opposed to like just pulling that rigor away. And when they do challenge themselves, that helps us see, okay, they took a lot of rigor, they took a lot of classes, we want to benefit them for that that's how that weighted works. So whatever works best for the student is kind of what we focus on. So it really varies. I know this process sounds scary and it sounds like we're these meanies over here that are judging all of your students, but really we're not. We see that all these students are incredible and we're doing our best to get to know them as deeply as we can. But it really comes down to your student filling out the application really fully, right? A lot of times students will, people will ask me, should I take this class over that one? Is this one going to make more of a difference? I don't really care which classes you take. You need those A through G subjects, but it's going to come down to really taking advantage of opportunities available to you, finding your passions and chasing them and making them your own, and making sure you put every single thing in the application. Otherwise, how am I supposed to know that you chased your passion and you took advantage of things available to you? There's a question about transferring. Again, this is going to be focused on freshmen. And there's another, we already answered that question. How do you schedule visits to a UC campus? It's going to be campus to campus. For Davis, you can schedule a tour online and then you would just show up. But the Sacramento airport's pretty close to Davis, so you're welcome to take that. If you have any other questions, I would reach out to our campus specifically to ask us how to arrange that. Does joining clubs such as NHS give students a boost during the admissions process? I'm hearing a lot of the same questions asked in very different ways. To sum up, anything you're involved in, put that in the application so we can see what you're doing with your time. So anything you're involved in is great. The only thing is I would discourage you from participating in any activity because you think that's what colleges want you to do. Typically, we can see through that. I want you to do things that you like, because when I see a student that's really passionate about something and they explore it in all these different ways, or they have multiple different passions and they throw themselves in everything they do, those things are going to be what stands out. It's not going to be, oh, the student made sure they took this and took that. There isn't any magic activity or number of courses or anything like that that's going to make you automatically enrolled. The comprehensive process, and at Davis specifically, we call it holistic because it's even more just like general and very much like looking at the whole picture of the student. Every little thing you give us is a puzzle piece for us to see you clearly and understand how amazing you are. So take that time to do that. There's a question about the average GPA for a high school student. You can see the specific metrics for what we had most recently admitted. It's going to vary campus to campus. The higher the GPA, the better. Minimum is a 3.0. Would taking community college courses during high school be a factor in rigor? Absolutely. I love when I see students challenging themselves and kind of dipping their toe into that college enrollment process. Okay, a lot of the questions in the chat I already answered from the Q&A. Is there an admissions waitlist after the first round? So for the waitlist, basically all decisions will be released. In Davis, we do it in mid-March, but all the decisions are released at the same time. So the admitted, the waitlist, and the not retained. So those are going to be the three kind of categories, and they're all released on the same day, right? For students that are on the wait list, they will have to accept that offer. I think they have 2 weeks to do that. They have to accept that offer and they get an opportunity to include a little blurb about why, like that last ditch effort of why you're awesome. And it's going to be campus specific because the decisions are all campus specific. If you're waitlisted at Davis, you could still be accepted, waitlisted, or not retained at any other campus you applied to. It's not going to be the same. We all review very independently, right? So if you are waitlisted for example, at Davis, you have to submit that extra blurb and it's going to be campus specific. So you can talk about how you're a great fit for Davis instead of like in the personal insight questions in the general application. It's going to be very, it's going to be UC general. It's going to be talking about how you're a great fit for the University of California. You won't address specific campuses unless you're only applying to one. And then for that wait list, once you've submitted that little blurb, you have to wait until that May 1 deadline, because at that point, that's when we know how many students have accepted their admission offer from our accepted students. And at that point, we'll know exactly how many students we can admit off of our wait list. Unfortunately, the wait list is an enrollment tool to make sure we hit the numbers we're looking for. So we kind of have to wait to see how things work out in that first process. So after May 1 is when we start enrolling students off of the wait list. If we go off the wait list, there have been years when there's been 0, and there's been years where there's hundreds that we admit. So it really varies. It's going to vary campus to campus as well. And the wait list offers can go out through the summer too. So that's something to keep in mind too. There's a question about the timeline. Submitting your application August, like if you submit it today versus November 30th, there's no effect on how our application's evaluated, on when it's evaluated, and decisions all come out, like I said, on the same day, no matter when you submitted your application. Davis, they come out in mid-March. All UCs will have decisions out by the end of March. Alrighty, questions have died down a bit. We only have a few more minutes, but if you don't have any more questions, that sounds like we're all good to go. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Alrighty, there we go, folks. So that's the bit about the UC system. Don't forget to submit your application by November 30th. Don't forget to submit your FAFSA. And good luck with the process, and kind of have fun with it. It should be about you. You're the biggest expert in yourselves, right? And this application, while it is lengthy and it is kind of a bear to do it in increments. Take your time, sit down and do a little here, a little there. And remember that those written pieces, while it seems intimidating, you're just writing about yourself. Don't be afraid to brag. Don't be afraid to really make yourself sound amazing, because I know you guys all are, right? So just make sure you help us get to know how awesome you are. Ask for help, and start early. So you have a couple months still, but it's gonna fly by. So take your time on that. There isn't an incentive for applying early. We have extended the timeline if students want to get things out of the way, but there's no incentive to submitting early. The one incentive for not submitting on the very last day would be peace of mind, and making sure that if there's an issue like your Wi-Fi cuts out or you have a family emergency, that your application's done, and you don't wait till the last minute. But like half of the applications come in on the last day. So most students do wait till the last minute, even though I tell them not to. So it doesn't affect your admission. If you want to wait till the last minute, I guess that's your prerogative.
Aim to get in before Thanksgiving break.
I mean, if you want to ask your counselors questions, like you want to ask them before Thanksgiving break. So that's why I say do it before Thanksgiving. You'll have your counselors accessible still, and you make sure that you can enjoy your holiday in peace. So that's what I suggest. That's what counselors suggest. I know you guys are going to do what you're going to do, but that's a really good tip.
All right, the reason why I mentioned before Thanksgiving break is we only have 3 school days, including the day of the deadline after Thanksgiving break. So FYI, definitely plan ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Devin, for presenting. You did amazing. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do things like this for our school district. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening, everyone.